Not Quite Cool is a podcast that contains spoilers, opinions, and general nonsense. Listener discretion is advised.
At least my hair looks good.
Yeah, at least there's that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Not Quite Cool. My name is Keith Brooks. Here with me, as always, is Mr. Chad Dowdy. Chad, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And in the other corner, weighing in when no one's asked him to, with parts better left unknown. If he were a wrestler, he would be the Nacho Man, and he's average. Rob Prago, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, yeah. How you doing?
Yeah,
That sounded weird.
absolutely. Rob looks like he's eating wings dipped in chocolate syrup.
This is what happened. You're introducing him. He knows it's coming. The minute you say, and next is Rob, he's putting something in his mouth at that exact moment. He's literally going to have to talk in 3 seconds.
I think most of the people who know me get that most of the time my mouth is moving, food is going in it. So,
yeah,
what they expect from me. I got to maintain character.
Yeah, this is his character persona. Like, I'm sure Undertaker, when the camera's not on, he's all like, well, I do believe so, sir. And then when you turn it on, rest in peace, like, that's what happens. So,
Yeah, I'm nothing like this in real life.
yeah, nothing at all. I'm glad this is the show that we don't show our faces on. Anyway, so we got a bunch of stuff to talk to you guys about tonight. It's been 17 weeks since our last recording, but let's go ahead and invade your ears with the main reason we're here, the main reason we started this show, and that is the MCU had a new show come out, and that's Secret Invasion, a Disney Plus television series starring Samuel L. Jackson, starring Olivia Colman, other people I'm sure I'm forgetting because there's a lot forgettable about the show. Chad, what did you think about the entirety of the MCU's Secret Invasion?
Well, you kind of stole my thunder because, it's been a little while since we've seen this show. So it's hard for me to remember it, but it's because it's largely forgettable. It really is just a nothing show. Like, it was fine, I guess. Nothing really major happened. Yeah, Rhodey's a Skrull. How long has he been a Skrull? Which the last time we talked, I was hoping that he would be a Skrull so that, somebody from the main MCU would actually turn out to be a Skrull. So, I mean, that's fine, that piece of it. But like I said, completely forgettable. And not only forgettable, there are times when it just seemed cheap as well. Like some of the, I guess, I don't know if it's shots or locations or whatever you want to call it, but it seemed a little cheap. I understand this is not an MCU movie with a huge budget of MC movie, but it's got a budget as far as that goes. But yeah, it just seemed
$230 million they announced for that thing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, where was it? I mean, I guess special effects.
Damn Jackson, that's where it was.
It was in a hospital scene.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, it was just a misfire for me. I mean, it really was disappointing.
Rob, what about you? You know a lot about being disappointing. Did this show live up to your expectations?
Somehow, some way, this show was able to accomplish being the worst of all the Disney Marvel fucking shows. How is that possible? I got chicken in my teeth. Listen to me.
I've never seen.
I have high expectations. Don't interrupt me. I'm on a roll. Was it over for the Nazis? Pearl Harbor, and it ain't over now. Sorry, that's Animal House. I got a puppy right here. So it's okay, guys. I'm freaking out. It was so. Listen, what a cast! What an unbelievable cast! And unless they paid Olivia Colman $200 million, I don't know where the money went on this goddamn thing. Littered with good actors and peppered with some really good one-on-one actors going toe-to-toe.
Sure.
But surrounded it is some of the worst production value, and I think some of the most inane decision-making, storytelling, and character decisions they've made so far. And it was felt like things that happened in the episode before that everybody clearly remembers would have solved so many problems 2 minutes later, but no, they changed the rules and how to tell if somebody's a Skrull. And look, Rhodey fucking being a Skrull made Sharon Carter being the power broker revelatory and shocking and a great decision, which up to this point was to be the worst fucking decision, which was idiotic. So it was just god awful. Oh, god awful's wrong. It was not good. It was not good. I think relatively speaking, it was not good. What happened? What happened? Who's making the decisions here? What?
I think I've never seen you be more Jack Nicholson up the staircase in Shining as you were just there. But it was interesting. Listen, honey, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna bash your fucking head in. That's what you were doing. Let me say one thing that I forgot to say up the top. Before I strike out onto the show, let's talk about the strike real quick. There is two strikes happening right now with the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. If you listen to our sister show, Not Quite Darkness, you probably heard us discuss the element of that. We are in full support of both unions. Absolutely. Rob and I are both members of one of those unions. And let me tell you, Rob's not in the WGA. So that being said, we are allowed to do shows like this because we are entertainment journalists is what it's classified under. And clearly we're not promoting Secret Invasion by any means. We're tearing the motherfucker apart. That being said,
real fast, Keith, I want to touch on one thing too, what you're talking about with that. Even though you guys are members of one of these unions, yet I'm the only one that's actually went to California, signed up, walked the picket lines with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are just sitting at home. I don't know.
As union member actors, we're very busy, so we need to have minions like you doing the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And walking on the non-tree lined streets because the trees were cut down so you can cook for us, Yeah. We're actors. We can't tan, we can't shoot. You can burn all the way,
Well,
that's
plus,
true.
We didn't have anyone to write any dialogue for us to go to the picket line. But I'm sure we'll talk about all that later. But let's talk about the other evil overlords that we're dealing with right now when it comes to the Skrulls and Gravik's thing. Look, this show, the thing is, the comic version of Secret Invasion is top notch. That's top tier stuff.
Love it.
This had all of the components of top tier, just missed the mark. Like, I don't think this is the worst show I've ever seen because there are really great moments in it, and then the coherence of it just isn't there. All the pieces aren't adding up. You're missing a couple of things. And it feels honestly to me like this was a 12-episode show that they cut a lot of shit out to compress it. And if it had been longer, maybe we'd have been able to sit with some of these ideas and gestate and think them to a better point. Maybe things like Nobody Calls Me Nick would have come back to been a more important and significant thing at the end and felt like we were paying off something. Look, I didn't mind the Dragon Ball Z fight at the end. That was fine. I dug that. Yeah, it was fine. She was great in it. I don't like the fact that you made that character Gaia, who, like, there's like 19 different Gaias in the comics. You could have made her Varanki, or you could have given her the name of the actual Super Skrull or something there, just to bring it into and pretend we're fucking with the, the lore. But Sam was great. Olivia Colman was the star of the entire show. Daenerys was fine. And who else was Ben Mendelsohn was great. I enjoyed him in it. I liked Gravik. I liked seeing Bob Marley before he gets to become Bob Marley. And it's not my favorite, but it's also not the worst thing I've ever seen. So,
it's at the bottom for me as far as just the Disney Marvel shows, as far as the level of disappointment for me anyway. I mean,
it's not the bottom show, but yeah, it's right there. Yeah. To me.
But I think it's hard when you're dealing with such high expectations of a fandom that's lasted for so long, and everyone's hyping it up before it even starts, right? They're saying, oh, well, this is going to be the next Winter Soldier, blah, blah, blah. And it suffers from being compared unto itself. And because of that, it can't forge its own identity, kind of like the next thing we're going to watch and talk about now. And that's a movie that all of us saw. Clearly, we're talking about the fan favorite Barbie. So directed by Greta Gerwig, written by Greta and Noel Baumbach, and starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, and my friend Alexandra Shipp is in the film. Simu Liu's in the film. Tons of people. Chad, were you a Barbie girl in a Barbie world while watching this?
This movie is excellent.
Yeah.
It was so good, so funny, so clever, and I'm not kidding. All jokes aside, Ryan Gosling's best performance ever. And he had some amazing performances. Like, I loved his Ken so much. I mean, yeah, it's called Barbie, but Ken was almost the star of the show. It was unbelievable how good Ryan Gosling. Margot Robbie was great, and all the Barbies were great. And we've talked about this before, Keith, specifically properties like cartoons and toys where they come into the real world. I'm not typically a fan of that. Just leave them in their own world. But this worked in the fact that they weren't in the real world for long, but while they were in the real world, it just worked for me. And then we got back to the Barbie world. So I really enjoyed this movie a lot. It's going to be, at the end of the year, it'll be on my top list. It'll be on the list. I just don't see how it's going to get knocked off the list. I mean, it is awesome. I love it. And it's going to be a movie that I think people will be quoting forever. It'll be one of those movies, like we quote movies from 20 years ago, 30 years ago. People are going to be quoting Barbie 30 years from now.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Rob, what about you? Life in Plastic, it's fantastic. Did you agree?
As long as the quote isn't beat you off, everything else was great.
Yeah.
I ditto everything Chad said about it. As a matter of fact, Ryan Gosling was great. And you know how great he was? He was so great, and I'd heard this before I'd seen the movie, how great he was, that I was so blown away by Margot Robbie's performance that, yes, and still overshadowed by Ryan Gosling's performance. So I just assumed Margot Robbie was going to be fine, but she's always great. And she was fun. The emotional beats she hit over and fucking over. I was like, holy shit. But yeah, I mean, what a showcase for Gosling, who, it's not like revelatory, but it almost is in a way. This guy who's been at A-list level for a long time, it's almost like, where is this amazing performance? Or just so much fun. Great spot casting, stunt casting throughout. Just very smart and alive. And again, this is a movie that just makes me embarrassed for the male population on the planet. The fucking stupidity, the wormy, embarrassment, whiny, pussified, weenies who are living in their parents' basement and girls and anything. Oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? What the hell is that they're afraid of this and they're gavel banging and what? I don't know what, I don't even know what that is. What is that? That they're anti-women. Women, I don't get the anger over the quote-unquote feminism. It's a funny fucking movie. It just blows my mind that people actually go on camera and embarrass themselves hammering this thing. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're not going to talk to a girl ever again? You're not like girls? I mean, what is the thing? Are you what the fuck?
I don't get A, how your puppy just hasn't ran out of the fucking room right now. B, how
he's like, yeah, go Rob, I love you. Want another bone.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, go Rob. Those wings are delicious. Can I have more of those? Yeah.
I'll get you back, buddy. Come on.
I don't get how you could go to a movie called Barbie and not expect a little bit of feminism there in the film. You know what I mean? Like
they're surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the digs at masculinity and male were like fucking amazing. I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to Matchbox 20 in my life. It's one of my favorite bands of all time. And when they started playing that song, I thought I was gonna shit myself laughing so hard. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. That I kind of lost interest in the patriarchy when I found out it wasn't all about horses. It's one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard in my life. I think the movie is so intelligent, is so smart, is so sharp edged, and finds its times to be blatant with what it's saying, and finds its times to be subversive in what it's saying. And I love that. It takes the format of any 80s cartoon movie, like Chad said, of going into the real world, but it's Elf. It's Elf with another act added. We're like,
that's how angry women were when the G.I. Joe movie came out, and
yeah,
and the toxic masculinity. Oh, this is all these guys getting back at women for the
It's like going to see Fast and the Furious and being pissed off there were cars in it, right? Like
mighty.
So, but it's going from Barbie world back to the real world, and then back again, and seeing how that affects you, seeing how it juxtaposes things and how it changes stuff. Having John Cena in there, Dua Lipa in there, I loved it. I love the bringing in Rhea Perlman as the creator character. I love that Mattel wasn't afraid to make fun of themselves.
That's what I was saying,
and that's just balls to the wall. Great job on them to give it over to an auteur and let them have their way with the movie, you know?
Guarantee you there were some producers, there was some Mattel upper level people who were squirming over that a little bit. I bet.
Sure.
But that was great. That was fucking yeah.
I imagine they're popping. I imagine they're popping pink champagne right now every minute in their own dream houses, you know?
The only downside is now we got to get shitty movies about the rest of their fucking products for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're talking about Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling being stars, but really, I mean, Greta Gerwig deserves the applause. I mean, what she has done with this movie is amazing. She's the true star of the movie. Like, it's amazing.
And more... Yeah, I think the interesting thing about it is the name of the movie is Barbie, but America Ferrera's character is really the protagonist of the film. And like her and her daughter are actually the protagonist. And Barbie acts the same way that Daniel Craig's character does in the Knives Out movies, where he is just the straight man so everybody else can do whatever crazy shit they need to do, right? And we watch the story unfurl, and he's just a catalyst for it. And that's the same thing Margot does in this, but she's brilliant in it. And I think just the whole package of the movie, it could not have been made better. Like, it was just an absolute brilliant, and fuck all those Ben Shapiro, it's gonna bomb. You want to talk about a bomb? We'll talk about our next film, and that's Chris Nolan's Oppenheimer, starring Cillian Murphy and Matt Damon and every fucking other person in the world. Chad, you saw Oppenheimer. How could you not see the double feature, Barbenheimer, as it were? Chad, what did you think about Oppenheimer?
Well, first I want to say I think this might be our best podcast of all time, because we've covered two things so far, and we've had two rants from Rob. So if he can keep that energy up, I mean, usually he's already taking his melatonin and he's ready for bed when we start this.
Let's hear his hot takes on World War II in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, he's going to rant about that. This movie benefited definitely from the Barbenheimer whole situation, because again, you got people going to see both of those movies. Like, you almost had to see both movies.
Yeah.
So obviously I saw it. This movie's excellent as well. I mean, it's Christopher Nolan, another great director, as far as that goes.
We'll see. We've got a ways to go.
But it's amazing that how good this movie was. It came out on the same day as Barbie. Those might be the two best movies of the year, and they come out on the same day, and they are night and day different from each other as far, they talk about counter programming. But you had already mentioned it. The amount of actors in this movie is ridiculous. I felt like every other scene I was like, oh, I like that actor. And then a scene, oh, I like that actor. Like, every time you turned around, it was, an Oscar winning actor, Oscar nominated actor, or just an actor that I love seeing on screen anyway.
Yeah.
But it was, we know the story, but it was so tense all throughout, even though we know the story. And even after they dropped the bomb, which you think that's the end of the story. We got another 45 minutes left, and I'm not bored at all. I'm just like glued to the edge of my seat. Like, this is so riveting, so well done. True Oscar Best Picture contender right here.
Absolutely. And true Oscar contender, I think, for tons of different categories. And like you were saying about the actors, our buddy Steve Coulter's in the film, and he's just sitting. I'm surprised the room wasn't gold from all the Oscar in that room. You know what I mean?
To be in, it was like the greatest green room ever, and he's sitting. And that was amazing to see that.
Yeah.
So I thought I saw the trailer, and I was like, was that Steve Coulter on the fucking trailer? And then I was like, wow, that's fucking great. That's love.
What'd you think about it?
It was all right. It was great. It took me, I'll tell you, so in front of this movie was where I saw the trailer for The Exorcist, the new one. And everybody was in a good mood. And then that fucking trailer scared the shit out of everybody in the theater. And in the audience for Oppenheimer was, everybody was taking their Geritol before they went to the goddamn theater. So, I'm surprised there weren't heart attacks left and right in that fucking theater. What just a spectacle. We went to see it in IMAX. It was just, you're absorbed in it. You're taken into that world. It might as well be 3D, virtual reality, the way he shoots. Just powerful performances and writing left and right. Where, and in some strange way, Damon was almost like the comic relief, which was weird. Just the way it just is, which was so odd, but it's so effective. And again, every scene just, and then for some reason, the scene that just keeps popping out to me is when Cillian Murphy is brought before, not the general, one military guy, and he's surprised with Casey Affleck's general.
Yeah.
And Casey Affleck is shot. I mean, it's overwhelming, the power and danger emanating off of him. And it's just, I didn't know Casey. I mean, you are just constantly, which I think you need to be in a movie like this, which is such a remarkable moment in human history that every moment should be just dropping bombs on you and hitting you. It should be shocking moment to moment to moment. We'll never be able to create the stress that these characters dealt with.
Yeah.
But fuck, that movie was just overwhelming and exhausting. And yeah, I think, Best Picture, Alphabet close to, it could win Best Picture, it could win Best Director, it could win Best Actor, it could win Best Supporting Actor. I think she can win. I think she could be nominated for Supporting Actress, Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
Just on the turn from when she was interviewed, I thought she was a little bit used sparingly early on, but maybe that was just so the shock of her, what turn she takes in when she's being interviewed by what's his name, who's a great actor. I just forgot his name.
Yeah.
We'll come up with his name. Say it in a minute. Unbelievably powerful. I do want to see it again. It's one of those, you see it, you got to take a break. I don't know if it's going to be a while before I watch it again, but I will watch it again. It's not like Saving Private Ryan where I'm like, oh God, anyway, it was unbelievable. Yeah. What a film.
Well, and
Jason Clarke, though, you're talking about Jason Clarke.
Yeah. John Connor from one of those Terminator movies.
Exactly.
I think, to me, I think Nolan's just such a thoughtful filmmaker. Like, I feel he is the antithesis of Zack Snyder, which I'm sure we'll talk about this later, where the stories are so layered with metaphors that the more I get away from this movie, the more I'm just admiring it. How the character of Oppenheimer, and it's all based on reality, almost poisoned nature to get back at someone, and then had the consciousness to say, no, I don't want to be that person, to later on poison nature and still having doing it for the right reasons this time, but the chaos and the downfall of humanity that perhaps he caused is just insurmountable. No one in the history of the planet has had more of an effect on life than that man has, just because of what he did to our fucking planet alone, right? But seeing what that struggle is, talking about it from, him saying, I'm a Jewish man, I know what this guy's gonna do. All of that, it's just so.
If the Nazis get a bomb, yeah.
And so you see his drive, but you also, in that one scene, you get to see all of his fears come to life, all the guilt he struggles with. And I love, it would have been easy for Nolan to try to do a CGI version of Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but he didn't, because that's not Oppenheimer's story. Oppenheimer has to live with the ghost in his head, and that's brilliant. And instead of it being like something like Interstellar or Inception, where there's these grandiose wides, the vast majority of the movie is played tight. It's played close. It's about one man's story and how his brain affects all of this stuff. And that's awesome. That's like, again, you're seeing in Greta Gerwig and Chris Nolan, these masters giving you a point of view about these stories that is just undeniable. And I love that Nolan feels like such a classic student of something like The Last Emperor, of those classic biopics that everyone talks about, or even Chaplin. It feels like that, but with a little bit of modernity injected into it. And I think Nolan is a wonderful marriage of that old school, new school. It's just great. It's a breathtaking film. Obviously, one of my favorites of the year. And to top the three things we talked about so far: Secret Invasion, Barbie, and Oppenheimer. Well, at least two of those. That would be an impossible mission, which brings us to our next film that we're going to talk about.
Real fast. I didn't realize you were going to transition there. You were talking about the.
Never knows.
You were talking about the Barbie and Oppenheimer coming out on the same date. There was rumors that, obviously Nolan had been with Warner Brothers forever. That was his production. That was where he produced, and that's where he was distributed from. And after the falling out over the last movie, because they released it on day and date on HBO Max, he left them and went to Universal. Supposedly, Warner Brothers, when they found out when Oppenheimer was going to release, that's when they scheduled Barbie to try to get back at him, and wound up blowing up in their face. No pun intended. And it actually wound up helping them, because this whole thing, you just it's not something anybody planned. It was just this thing that it grew from the internet. But
it's also this interesting thing because so both of the movies did extraordinarily well. Barbie did better, but Oppenheimer did really great for a movie of its price range and caliber. So Barbie,
R-rated movie too. I mean,
length too. It's like 3 hours long.
Yeah. And its budget, it's nowhere near the budget that Barbie had. But the production of Barbie literally put the world in a shortage of pink paint, which is fucking crazy to think about. But anyway, Barbie became the Barbie became the number one Warner Brothers release and topped its previous release, The Dark Knight. But since then, that spiked sales for The Dark Knight on electronic copies and DVDs.
Really?
All going back to Nolan. So that's kind of insane.
Crazy. That's so funny. Hey, Nolan's got to love Barbie. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, who doesn't love Barbie? Right. You would have to be cruising for a.
He's transitioning right now, Rob. Just so you know.
Yeah, you would have to be cruising for a bruising, and that takes us to Mission Impossible.
I get it.
Tom Cruise. So I didn't watch this movie. Chad and Rob did. Chad, what did you think about Mission Impossible number 19, Deathly Hallows Part 1?
Again, this is similar to the more recent Mission Impossibles, the last 4 or 5. They're all good. This isn't necessarily better than the others or worse. They're all similar. They're fun. I have a good time. Tom Cruise makes good movies. It's action packed. It's a good movie. I mean, I enjoyed it. I would recommend anyone watch this movie, especially if you're a fan of Tom Cruise or Mission Impossible. You could do a lot worse than watching this movie. But there is something that I don't like in this movie. There's a trope that I don't like in some of these types of movies. Mission Impossible, the deal is they're like the best of the best. They don't even exist. They've been recruited and they're the best of the best. And when you bring someone in that like is a relative novice, that's just now, yep, you're part of the team or whatever. It's just hard for me to buy stuff like that, where you're supposed to be the best of the best and you pull somebody off the street that's now part of your team because they are a
right now.
Exactly.
I mean, she's a novice, but if she wanted to be part of this podcast, you'd say, okay,
well, she could take over, definitely.
Yeah, but we're not the best of the best.
Wow.
I think me and Mr. Beast would disagree.
I'm shocked you know who trope. Mr. Beast is, to be honest.
Right?
He watches all those YouTube videos, Keith. It's like that. He's always watching YouTube videos.
Kelsey,
He didn't even watch Oppenheimer or the whole Barbie thing. He's just watching YouTube videos about Ben Shapiro burning Barbie dolls.
watch Angry Boys Barbie, Angry Boys Barbie. I look like a fucking lunatic. This is insane.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good movie. I don't like that trope though, but it's a good movie. Yeah, check it out. Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise. Good stuff.
But everything else is great.
That would be great if Chad pulled the mask off right then and was Haley Atwell. That would be fucking phenomenal. That would be so amazing. Plus, Haley Atwell's gorgeous, and Chad, you're lovely too. I'm sure your wife thinks so, but
yeah, I'm no Haley Atwell though. That's true.
Dude, Rob, what did you think about Haley Atwell?
I thought Haley Atwell was a welcome addition to this group of impossible agents. I thought she was excellent. That's fucking great. I mean, I'm not shocked that Haley Atwell was great. Haley Atwell was great. They've done the casting in this has been generally spectacular for years, for decades actually. I loved it. I'm just mad at myself. I waited too long to see it in the theater. And the theater I went to, basically, had I stayed home, it would have been a bigger screen than with the packed house I saw it in. It's like, what the fuck? But it was still really good. I'll still say it's my favorite movie of the year. I had more fun watching that movie than any movie, and just the quality of it. That's my favorite movie of the year so far. Just entertainment wise, I love Barbie. I loved Oppenheimer. This was just an absolute fucking joy and a ride. And I mean, and it still could have been better. But it was still just. I mean, you talk about just sparing no expense. Cruise and his team does not take no for an answer. They get exactly what they want. And look, it ain't going to be cheap, but you're never going to have the hospital secret invasion scene.
Exactly.
Just a lot of fun. There was even a little more humor infused in this one, for better or worse, which was great. I mean, there was that scene in the tiny car, which was fucking awesome. No spoilers. It's spoilers. But I loved it. I mean, I wish there'd be a re-release of it a little bit because of the weird positioning of it and how it came out just before Oppenheimer, and then basically Oppenheimer got all the IMAX screens, and it did really disappoint box office wise, but it's a fantastic movie. So I'd actually like to see it again if there was a re-release on IMAX.
Well, I think I think the fact that Barbie and Oppenheimer did so well is a product of the internet itself, and B, is kind of a fluke because both are in the middle of a strike, like when they were released, right? So you couldn't have the positive of actors and people coming out and doing the promotions for the film. Literally in the middle of the premiere, all the actors had to walk out for the Oppenheimer premiere. So it's kind of amazing that either one of those films have done as well as they've done. You know what I mean? And speaking of doing so well, a lot of these sequels, they just keep going deeper and deeper. Mission Impossible, we're on like number 19. And with Secret Invasion, that's 30-something projects in the MCU. And this next sequel we're going to talk about goes even deeper, all the way to The Trench. And that's Meg 2, The Trench, starring Jason Statham and a big-ass shark. Chad and I saw this movie. Chad, what did you think about the Meg 2?
That was one of your weaker impressions, but it was okay.
I don't think it was weak at all.
That was better. Who's he doing, Rob? Do you know who he's doing?
The shark.
John Favreau?
Who?
That John Favreau? Who is he doing right there?
No.
Exactly. I'm gonna go direct Zafura.
John Favreau.
So, Meg 2, Jason Statham. I'm a fan of Statham. I like his style. He just seems super cool. The last 30 minutes of this movie is exactly the movie that I wanted.
Yes.
It is batshit insane. It's awesome. All the crazy shit that's going on. I love it. The problem is the first hour and a half of this movie is not that at all. And the problem is that I think anyway, it takes itself too seriously. You're a giant shark movie. Be a giant shark movie.
But it's like you're taking yourself seriously while dumb shit is happening the entire movie. Like it feels like there was a cartoon on when me and Chad were kids. I think Rob was already in his late 50s. Called James Bond Jr. And this feels like a fucking plot from that show, or like Thunder in Paradise starring Hulk Hogan, because they find a secret base at the bottom of the world where there's dinosaurs, but it's played like Oppenheimer until we get back to the surface, and it's just dumb.
Yeah, like I want to see the giant star stuff. I don't care about backstabbing and a corporate hostile takeover. We don't need to see any of that crap. Who cares?
Or unobtainium.
Jurassic Park movie was about this fucking corporate thing and the release of these locusts. It's bullshit.
I was okay with that one, but this one,
Brooks.
that was also movie 6 by the time we got to that. This is number 2. We're into the corporate stuff way too quickly. Chad, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, that's about all I've got on this. I mean, the last 30 minutes, awesome. Giant squid, multiple giant sharks, and dinosaurs. I don't know what you'd call them. Basically, dinosaurs attacking the island.
Dinosaurs who, by the way, have been deep underwater their entire lives, but then like have no need for time for adjustment when on land. You know what I mean? Like evolution must have happened a lot quicker than I interpreted, because these aquatic animals are all of a sudden like, oh fuck yeah, look at us, we can do this, and then just start
like in Secret Invasion being able to use her powers instantly too. A little bit.
Yeah. I mean, this is a dinosaur, so it's kind of different. But yes, I understand where you're coming from.
Exactly. She had dinosaur powers.
Rob, we're talking about stuff that really happened. Okay. Dinosaurs are real, not Marvel superheroes. Gosh.
But yeah, so that was a movie, but that's not the only shark movie that was watched during this week, or at least I hope this other thing's a shark movie. Let's go ahead and take a bite out of this next one with Chad. Sharksploitation is what you sent me, and I don't know if that's a film you watched or just a new genre that you're really into.
Well, I mean, technically it's a movie, but it's more specifically a documentary on Shudder about shark movies.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure, released to coincide with the Meg too, because they talk about the Meg in it. It's just your basic talking head, talking about all the shark movies. And
that's awesome.
They talk about the big ones like Jaws and Deep Blue Sea, but then they're talking about, Sharknado, of course, that was a phenomenon, talking about the internet. And even I've never even heard of Ouija shark,
where they bring back the dead shark ghost. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're talking about a bunch of shark movies. Perfectly fine. Definitely worth checking out. If you like, horror movies, shark movies, things like that. Definitely worth it. But one of the things
right now, that sounds good. Yeah.
One of the things that I didn't realize though, and that's public common knowledge, is, so Peter Benchley, after Jaws came out, there was a run on people just killing sharks.
Yeah.
Like, sharks are bad. And he didn't realize the impact that it would have. And he started like a conservation and a charity to like protect sharks. So I thought that was pretty cool too, how they talked about that, how like he felt, like, yeah, it's Steven Spielberg's Jaws, we know that, but Peter Benchley wrote Jaws. Yeah. He felt responsible for the vitriol that people had for sharks after that time. So, I mean, that was interesting too,
I do remember that. And that movie caused a run on the books. I remember right after seeing that movie, it was 76, I think it was, just as a 10-year-old, it was my mom had the book. Immediately I dove into the book and read that. And it's just, sharks were scary. I remember after that movie, just even swimming in a lake, at that young age, it's just, you're kind of haunted by, because you see the way it was shot and you see the water the same way through the camera. And he fucked up a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. You don't go into the water. Like, and even to the extent where, when I lived in an apartment in Tucker, Georgia, this was a few years ago, I had rainbow sharks. So they're very tiny shark-like little fishies. And so they were right in the living room in front of the television. So we would watch a shark movie every week because I felt representation mattered for those guys, right? And so we watched something with a shark once a week. And it's insane how many movies try to replicate and play on your primordial fear of Jaws by hitting just 2 low music notes to try to replicate that John Williams score, and how those notes and that sound almost became synonymous with the idea of sharks, and how misunderstood of creatures they are. I mean, they are the most inquisitive animals in the world. They often run into things just because they don't know what it is. So they're trying to hit it with their nose because they don't fucking have hands, right? And so sharks are always curious, trying to find out more. I mean, most aquatic life is, most life in general is. So yeah, I here at the podcast, we support sharks. So that's sharks. So yeah, that's great. I also, let's get a little bit deeper into the Shudder sphere. I sunk into Shudder with a film myself called Quicksand. And this is a indie Shudder exclusive. It's about two doctors who go to, I want to say, Colombia, for a doctor's conference. You find out they're a married couple who's going through a divorce. They're separated. They decide to go out on a hike together, and on that hike, they fall into quicksand, something I thought after playing Pitfall would be a larger aspect of my life, but was not. And while stuck in quicksand, they get robbed, a storm happens, they get bit by a snake. It's just a fucking nightmare for these people. And it's very claustrophobic, well done, small little indie. I dug the shit out of it. I think the thing about Shudder is anytime I go to the channel, I just grab whatever the first thing in the featured is, and I just watch it with no expectations. And 90% of the time, I'm pleasantly surprised. Their curation of films is just a wonderful collection. I could say that because they're not AMPTP, but whatever. So great job there with Quicksand. I think everybody should check that out, and talk to me about it. Speaking of talk to me, Chad and I are going to talk about another film from the greatest studio around right now, who signs their interim contracts with SAG-AFTRA. That is A24, of course, and their newest film from Down Under, Talk to Me. Chad, what did you think about Talk to Me?
Well, I'm not going to talk bad about A24 because of the strike stuff, and they're like agreeing to it. So, okay, A24 is fine at the moment. But the minute everybody's back, come back to this podcast. I'm going to talk bad about A24. So I really liked, this is going to be so stupid, I like the horror elements of this movie. And to me, the horror elements was everything to do with the hand. Rob, I don't know if you know anything about this movie. There is like a plaster hand. They don't know, no one knows really where it came from. They said it's the hand of a serial killer or whatever. But you shake the hand while you're tied up, and you basically have visions and stuff like that, and crazy shit happens to you. Whenever they're doing stuff with the hand, I loved it. It was so creepy, so well done. It was basically like a drug party, almost like in those moments. It was like exactly like that. People are gathered around everybody. Somebody's taking drugs, and then you're making fun of them for the way they're acting and stuff. And then everybody tries it. Everybody's having a good time. I love that stuff. I love the hand stuff, the horror stuff with that. What I didn't really like was the non-hand stuff. To me, that was more of the A24 aspect. And I didn't, the cast of characters I was fine with. I wasn't like super invested, like, oh, I hope that person doesn't die or hope that person lives or anything like that. I just wasn't feeling that aspect of it. But I really loved, like I said, the horror stuff. Now, some people are like losing their mind over this movie, and I'm just like, calm down. It's a fine horror movie, but calm down, guys.
I mean, I think it well, first of all, you heard it here, folks. Chad likes hand stuff. I think, like, to me, it reminds me of like Witchboard almost. It's got that vibe of that old 80s franchise. But again, more modern. I think the A24 thing to me is that it takes a dark turn. The movie goes really fucking dark, and I dig that. I like the little lore that they've set up. It's already been greenlit for a sequel. It's done well enough. It's YouTube filmmakers that A24 saw. They did a short film of this. Hey, we love what you did. And they're like, what'd you say? And they're like, we like what you did. Oh, you like the movie then? And then they made it, for real. There's a moment where they take the conceit of the film and they spin it. And that was a horrifying moment. When she's in the hospital and the little girl, that was fucking great. That was the moment where I was like, this is one of my favorite movies I've ever seen, just because of that. And the imagery of what it's like on the other side. Oh God, that was great. And I love how don't trust a fucking ghost. You know what I mean? Like in so many movies, it's so many fucking movies. It's like, oh, the ghost just wants us to love them and bury them. And this one's like, nah, they're fucking liars, bruh. Like, don't listen to this bullshit. And I dug that. I can't wait to see what else they do. It was a pleasant surprise. Like, I really dug this. I enjoyed the shit out of it.
No, yeah, I can tell you're about to transition, so I want to say real fast. One of the things I could just tell. One of the things that really like resonated with me in this movie is is if this was real, I would have 100% been at that party in high school, 100% been involved in this.
Oh yeah.
Now I might not have been the main character, but I would have been on the periphery of this. Absolutely.
I would have unfortunately been the little brother where it just goes terribly wrong. But it's like so to do this, there's a 2-part process. You grab the hand and you say, talk to me, and then you see the dead person in front of you, and then you say, I let you in, and then they possess you, right? I think the first part, I would have tapped out at that. Like when I saw the lady with the boils on her face, done. Like
that's as far as I would go. Absolutely. Yeah. Talk to me. That's it.
Yeah. Never the let me in thing, but I enjoyed it. I liked all the mayhem that they caused in it. It really it oozed with a lot of charisma. And that takes me to the next film that I want to talk about, and that's Teenage Motherfucking Mutant Motherfucking Ninja Motherfucking Turtles Mutant Motherfucking Mayhem. Produced by Seth Rogen, starring Ice Cube and Paul Rudd. Oh my God. Look, I know you guys are lame and don't appreciate the Turtles for all they are.
I love the Turtles.
You want to see this, though. I mean, the trailer was great. I want to see this.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I just watched 50 other things. I didn't have time.
This movie was fucking incredible. Like, not only is the animation style absolutely beautiful, I just found myself... The kids playing the Turtles are so fucking charming. Jackie Chan as Splinter is such a good choice. Paul Rudd's Mondo Gecko steals the fucking show for me. It's very influenced by the 80s cartoons, but you have just voices coming in. Giancarlo Esposito is in this movie, and he plays Baxter Stockman for like 5 fucking seconds. Cyclops, James Marsden, has one line, and I think it's, hey, that's it. And it's just cameos left and fucking right. It's great. But one of the things that just tells you the level of cheesy humor but fun that this movie has, Jackie Chan voices Splinter. The way Splinter teaches the Teenage Mutant Turtles martial arts is by showing them martial arts videos, some of those being films created by Jackie Chan. So that's sort of awesome. Like meta aspect to it. Ice Cube is a wonderful fucking villain. April O'Neil is hilarious. There's a nice story about growing up and finding yourself and fitting in and growing and ascending into the hero or these characters that we know these turtles will become, right? Sort of putting your own selfish needs aside for a greater good. That seems to be one of the themes of the film. It's just wonderful. If you're a fan of the Turtles, I know a lot of people my age or older have difficulties with change. If, for example, Star Wars gets a little cartoonish every now and then, they freak the fuck out and throw wings at people and all that bullshit. But I'm cool with change. Give me, as long as you can give me a story that is compelling, that's all I care about. Now, I'm sorry that I hijacked
Star Wars. Just give me a story that's compelling.
Yeah, and things like Obi-Wan Kenobi really get to the heart of what Star Wars is. Sorry to hijack with good points, but let's go on to something that Rob saw, Hijack. I don't know what Hijack is. That's the TV show you started watching 9 months ago, right?
Yeah. So it's Idris Elba, who is fantastic. 7-episode limited series on Apple Plus. He plays a negotiator who just happens to be on a flight that gets hijacked, and every episode so well written. It felt like sort of an 80s or 90s network 9 p.m. show with just well written, just kind of fun, almost, I don't want to say soap opera, but it was just touching on melodrama for a second, but it was fun, it was edgy, well cast, a shitload of fun. It would be a great binge. I recommend it to everybody. Nobody does urgent cool like Idris Elba. Things are important, but he keeps his shit together and he knows how to deal with people. It just fucking dynamite. Just a lesson in urgent cool for all you actors out there. Watch this show. I don't want to take up too much time with it. It's worth your time. You'll have a good time with it. That's all I'm saying.
That's awesome. I hate when you have travel plans and they get bombarded with something unexpected, much like the next film we're going to talk about, The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Just real quick, my sound went all wonky. Chad, can you hear Keith normally, or did it go weird?
Keith sounds fine. And you sound fine too.
It's made then. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good.
Yeah. No, thanks for derailing that great segue I had.
You almost hijacked the show, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's go ahead and sink our teeth into The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is a movie about a Dracula on a boat. Chad and I watched this. Chad, what did you think about Dracula on a boat?
You said it all. It's Dracula on a boat, Keith. I mean, this movie knows what it is. That's what it is. So it's creepy. A lot of, dark nighttime shots. I thought, the conceit of having, it's just a ship, and it's not like a cruise ship, it's not like the biggest ship in the world, but you've got Dracula on the ship. But I never once felt like, oh, this is stupid. They should just find him. It just worked. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It just worked for me. I'm always down to see Dracula, whether it's semi-comedic like Renfield or this, like, it's awesome. I was halfway thinking there at the very end, not to like really spoil it, but again, this is from the novel. Guess what? Dracula survives, but at the very end, when it shows Dracula, I was thinking, is this going to be like a CGI-ish Bela Lugosi or something like that?
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, it would have been awesome if it had been like somebody similar looking to that.
Or just get cool. Nicolas Cage, and that way we've tied it all in.
Yes.
1 year of Dracula.
So, yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, like, again, I dug it. You like horror, you like Dracula, check it out.
Yeah, I think this movie was just straight up well made. I think you have some great actors. Graham McTavish is always fucking phenomenal. David Dastmalchian, I feel like he's in everything, but he's even in Oppenheimer, but we barely see him in Oppenheimer. He really gets a chance to shine in this, right? And Corey Hawkins, it does great in the film. I like everything. The only complaints I have were, I like the design of Dracula. And there's some really creepy moments when the guy's talking about the rats are all gone, or the knocking, or when you see Dracula learning to speak English. That was really cool. But the moments where like Dracula first attacks people, CGI was it felt like PlayStation 1 cutscene. You know what I mean? Like there's those scenes in the Matrix sequels where Neo's arms are way too long and shit like that. That's what was happening with this Dracula when he bounced. But then when you get to see him like up close or full wing form, that was dope. I even liked him in England when we saw him in that weird Van Helsing comic book ending that they tagged on there. But to me, one of the deterrents while I was watching the movie, I kept waiting for a twist. Like I kept waiting for something else to add another element to the film. Like maybe the girl that they found on the boat's last name is Renfield or something like that, right? To sort of bring that story to a different interpretation. And it never did that, which is no fault of the movie, but it just feels like it was kind of played safe. And this is the same director that did Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And I think he did a great job with it, but I still feel he was still shackled by the same elements of that, where there's not a lot that doesn't make this film kid friendly, except for one kid. It's not.
I was just saying, when it goes hard though, Keith.
Yeah, that fucking the grandson scene was pretty intense.
And that was rough.
That was rough.
And I thought exactly what you said too when you said the bookend thing with the Van Helsing thing. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that he was just going to sign his name and it was going to be like Van Helsing or something like that. I know they were calling him something different in the whole movie, but if that was his first name, then Van Helsing was his last, something like that. But yeah, I thought there might be a twist there too, but there wasn't. But it's fine.
Yeah, and everything doesn't need to have a twist to it, but when it is pretty twisted, I like it. And that brings us to the next thing we're going to talk about, a new television series entitled Twisted Metal, based off of the PlayStation video game about cars and a clown with his head on fire. Look, I have two friends in this show, Mike Mitchell from the Tomorrow War. He plays the character named Stu in this, and Diani Rodriguez, a local Atlanta actress who's also in one of the Law and Order series. She plays DA. She's the Blacklist. She plays one of the actual like original video game characters, the one that drives the Volkswagen Beetle. That's who she Amber. Yeah, that's who she is in this show. And I think the show starts off kind of Looney Tunes and gets kind of ridiculous at the beginning. Its tone is all over the place. But then as it develops, it's like a fun USA Network TV show. And I found myself really enjoying it by the end. It doesn't remind me too much of Twisted Metal until we get to the end. But I feel like it basically does what the new Mortal Kombat movie did, except for better, where this entire show should be a prequel to what we recognize as Twisted Metal, except for the Mortal Kombat movie was bullshit. And this was pretty solid. But this had the great Neve Campbell in it, and she is just more fucking beautiful than ever.
That's where this is going.
And it's just, god damn, she's gorgeous. Ugh. And she like moans once while she's eating ice cream. Point is, I really like this show. Is good for that. I dug it. But that takes me to the next. I don't even have I'm just only thinking about her in this building. So maybe you guys should talk about Only Murders in the Building, season 3, which I think Chad's watched all of and Rob started.
I'm one behind. I think I'm one behind. I think one came out today or yesterday, so I missed that one.
Oh, so you don't know who the killer is? Gotcha. So I won't tell you.
So, Chad, how is season 3 of Only Murders in the Building?
So I enjoy this show. It's not like the most amazing show, but it certainly keeps you interested. The mystery element's always good. I like the mystery in this one. Steve Martin is so funny in this season, though. He is so hilarious with some of the stuff that he's doing. He had a line, and I just laughed out loud at one point. Selena Gomez asked him something like, how are you handling the PTSD? And he said, "Oh, I'm fine. I've already repressed that." I just love it. It's like so freaking true. Yeah, I've already repressed that. Like, I'm totally fine.
But before you go on, so Martin Short had a line for me, which I literally, if it water in my mouth, I would have done a spit take. In the scene where Steve Martin thinks everybody won't talk to him because he's so famous. So he gets up and he makes a speech like, "Hey, listen, everybody, I know how famous I am," and blah, blah, blah. And Martin Short's like mortified that he's even doing this. He comes over, he goes, "Okay, that's enough." And Steve Martin goes, Did I nail the landing? Did I nail the landing? And Martin Short goes, "Literally wreckage all over the." And I took a second where he said it in a way where I literally belly laughed out loud. How fucking as much and Steve Martin's great. Martin Short to me on this show, I just get glad the world has got to see him, to a whole generation that really didn't know Martin Short. Funny as shit in this stuff and nonstop. Yeah, he's great.
Martin Short is definitely like peacocking on this show for sure. Like he's the flashy look at me, I'm funny. He is so funny. Like Martin Short had a line. He goes, he says something like, "I'm going to go against my instinct here, and I'm going to be nice." It's like so perfect. But there's funny stuff. But also, Meryl Streep joined the cast this season, and she plays like a struggling actor. Typecast, I guess, if you're going to typecast her. She plays a struggling actor, and she does an audition for the play. And this monologue, granted, they're trying to show you that she's blowing everybody away, but she was literally blowing me away with this monologue, auditioning for this play. I was like, that is perfection. It was amazing.
Unbelievable. Everybody I've talked to about said the same thing. And literally, as you're watching it, you feel the exact same way Martin Short feels as he wanders down to the stage. Like, that's what we're doing emotionally. And just as we're getting closer to the TV to go, what the fuck is that? It's unbelievable. And it's Meryl Streep, and we're still going, this is unbelievable. It's just ridiculous. The levels are ridiculous. It's Meryl Streep convincing us she's a struggling actor who does the greatest monologue only Meryl Streep could do. And you're like,
exactly.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how it plays out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're all dead.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it. It's great. I can't wait to see it. Matter of fact, when this is over, so wrap this shit up. I'm going to go watch Murders in the Building.
Yeah, we will try not to stray any further from the docket. But that takes me to the next film that I want to talk about, which is Strays. Look, this is where the SAG guidelines are a little wonky because I don't know how much I can say about this movie even in the entertainment journalist thing, because I'm in this film. So I will just say this. Really fucking funny movie. Really filthy. The person I went to see this film with thought it was going to be like a cute 101 Dalmatians film, and they hadn't watched the trailers. The look of shock on their face for an hour and a half was priceless. So you should totally watch that. There's a couple more here that I've seen that let me just go through. Let me go ahead and fly through this next one, and that is My Adventures with Superman. It is the new Superman show on HBO Max. There are 8 episodes. The newest one just came out. It's just the most charming fucking show I've seen in a long time. It does Superman right. Jack Quaid plays Superman. You have some wonderful characters, and they're sort of adjusting how the lore kind of works. At this point, Clark is aware that he has powers, but he doesn't know anything about Krypton, anything like that. He doesn't even speak the Krypton language, so he's just seen the first image of his father. We get Mr. Mxyzptlk, and they do a really cool turn on that. Livewire shows up, a Deathstroke, all sorts of great characters. And if you're a fan of the Superman mythos, you can kind of see where some of it's going, but it's just a wonderful, oh, that's how they're incorporating this every 5 seconds. And it's just a lot of fun to watch. In the Mr. Mxyzptlk episode, we get to see a couple of other dimensions in the multiverse. And this is like the 3rd episode, and they're already multiverse. Cool, we've done it. Here we go, moving on. And in that, you get the Fleischer Superman, you get the DCAU Superman, and it's just great. It's just a treat. It's better at the multiverse than the Flash movie was. So that's kind of, whatever. And then, that's a Man of Steel who's pretty invincible, but another television show for a comic book series called Invincible on Amazon released a standalone episode as a promotion for their season 2. And it's just the origin story of Atom Eve, one of the female characters from the show. It's a fucking brutal episode. There's some rough stuff in that. But it's heart-wrenching and it's great. And it's just a well-written, well-crafted show. So if you liked Invincible Season 1, I definitely think you should go check that out.
It's arguable that Seth Rogen is producing the best superhero content right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you talk about The Boys, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Invincible, up against what Marvel's putting out, what DC's putting out, I mean, come on. I mean, it's
well, I would argue about the DC one with the next product that we're going to talk about right now. So let's go ahead and crawl into Blue Beetle, a movie that Chad and I both saw. This is the newest outing for DC. It is not doing well in theaters, but not to bury the lead, I thought this movie was fucking fantastic. Chad, what did you think about Blue Beetle?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. Like a lot of fun. It wasn't dark or anything like that to a degree. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff, but I'm already a fan of the main character Cholo, or the main actor Cholo from Cobra Kai. I love Cobra Kai, already a fan of him. But what I really loved about this movie, and it's similar-ish to Miss Marvel, which I hoped from the trailer would be the family dynamic.
Yeah.
The family is heavily involved in this movie. And unlike Miss Marvel, though, they know immediately that he's the Blue Beetle. Like, they're immediately know that he's the Blue Beetle. They're on board. I love that aspect. I love the fact that we don't have those scenes that I've seen 1,000 times where the superhero is trying to sneak back into his house, or he can't make this date or something because he's got to be a superhero. Everyone that's involved with him knows he's the Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. I love the film. Joe Lopez is so funny in this movie.
He was so good in this movie.
Yes, he really was.
Like, even his serious moments in the movie, he just played them so well. Like, when he's talking, there's a scene in this movie where he's telling them why they can't call the cops. And he looks at, and he's, because they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're going to ask for papers. That means you, Alberto. And he talks to his brother. God damn, that simple line reading broke my heart the way he said it. It was beautiful. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the whole family is great. But ultimately, Cholo, the dude is just rootable. Like, you want him to win so much. And, he feels like Peter Parker of the DC. Again, he's not down on his luck, Peter Parker, but he's just like, You just want him to succeed.
Yeah.
And he's in over his head consistently. Yeah. I like this movie. It's disappointing that's not new, but I will say that there's nothing in this movie that overtly links it to the rest of the DCEU.
No, they mention Batman, clearly. They mention Flash, and they mention Superman. I think that's all.
But they just mention them.
They mentioned them. I think there was originally they shot something with Ezra as Flash for this, because there's an infamous story about him and Susan Sarandon from this film, where he tried to get Susan Sarandon to pray at an altar of him or something like that, which is just fucking bonkers. Yeah. So that being said, I just feel like the filmmaker really understood who this character was. And this kid felt like Jaime. Like, I mostly know Jaime from the cartoons. That's where I was first introduced to him. And he felt like him, right? Like, I think the thing is, the Blue Beetle character hits on Iron Man, hits on Spider-Man, hits on Batman to a degree. It hits on all of these different notes of superheroes without being too much of them. Jaime is Peter Parker in the sense that he's a kid, but he's not the quippy kid. You know what I mean? And so they didn't try to play that. I think it would have been easy to do that. But instead, you made this an origin story for that entire family and had this Shazam dynamic that I really thought was beautiful. And all of it, that entire cast gelled so well. The stuff with his dad was poignant. Susan Sarandon was a racist bitch the entire time. And it was just like, it was a fun movie. It was a nice tone. It felt like a DC comic. Like, and I dug it. Like, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, same.
The rumor is if they get to do the sequel, Sudeikis is going to be Ted Kord, that would be fucking awesome. So I don't know.
They have that mural or that shot of the family,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, I was like, who's that actor? Who does that kind of look like? So
yeah. And then even the post-credit scene, you can't really tell who
distorted
it is.
voice.
Yeah. So I dug it. I think it's takes me back to far, far away with a bunch of different classic comic book stories, and I really dig that. But that takes me to the next thing that we're going to talk about now. Chad, unfortunately, hasn't watched the two new episodes of the Star Wars. He watched one of those episodes.
I saw the first one. Yep.
Okay, so cool. So we can talk about the first one with spoiling the shit out of it, and then maybe lightly tread over the second one. But that is the Rosario Dawson starring Rebels Season 6. No, I mean, I'm just kidding. Ahsoka on Disney Plus. So, Chad, Ahsoka Tano, we've seen her in live action. This is her own show. We're getting Sabine Wren. We are getting Hera. Chopper. How did you feel about it?
So, yeah, as I said, I haven't seen the second episode, but I really like the first episode. It starts off and it looks like Return of the Jedi to me. Like, we're in Return of the Jedi. That's awesome. And then it's just so much like Star Wars to me. You've got the screen wipes, the reconnaissance droid shot, going to see this. That's straight out of episode 1 with Darth Maul. The shot is even the Darth Maul shot, with it come like, it's awesome. It's Filoni directed this first episode. So, I wouldn't expect it to be bad or anything like that. I'm a fan of Filoni. I really like this. It felt like Star Wars to me. It's just, even from the shot when the two Sith come off the ship and the shot from behind, it looks like Obi-Wan and Anakin, not Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon from episode. It's like, there's playing homage to Star Wars, obviously, but it's Filoni. That's what he does. But at the end of the day, too, it is the next season of Rebels, which I was a fan of as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed the first episode. Really looking forward to the second episode. And looking forward to Rob rant a little bit.
Yeah, Rob, we here at the channel have been made aware by a few people that you might have a complicated relationship with Star Wars. What did you think about Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2?
The further I get away from it, the more I like it. So the first episode's a little weird, and I'm going to put this to Chad. Well, Keith, you said you saw both of them?
Yeah.
The dialogue pacing throughout the entire first episode is bizarre. It's, I say a line, you say a line. I say a line, line.
It's not.
That's every conversation. I understand there are certain conversations where thought is given and it's a little more introspective. Buddy, this is every conversation in that first episode. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Now, it is littered with great actors.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad that Ahsoka was introduced in The Mandalorian. And she's phenomenal in that character. I mean, that is a phenomenal character. And everybody in it's really, really good. I got to get used to Mary Elizabeth Winstead in that fucking thing. It's whatever that is. That's fine. I'm not familiar with the actress playing Sabine. Seems fine. Ray Stevens.
Rest in peace.
God damn it. You know, he's always great.
So good. Yeah.
Always fucking great. And just to see him on a stage where, had he not passed away, you just look at this and you go, this would have launched him to whatever next level is next level from what his career was. He's so intimidating looking and imposing and completely playing the opposite. There's nothing threatening in his tone.
He's tender at times.
He's tender. He's apologetic for the thought of having. In episode 2, I'm going to say it. Episode 2, he's asked to do something, and he's almost apologetic about and regretful about what he's being asked to do, and it's just, and it really puts him on a different, not a different level acting. Just he's not a Jedi, but he's also not a Sith. He's in this wonderful little gray area. Thank God it's not just, you know. To me, my favorite part is not knowing exactly what island he stands on, I know where his allegiances are, but it doesn't seem like he's allegiant to them. It's more seems like he's a mercenary, but he's the world's most powerful mercenary who is clearly trained in the Jedi way, but is up for sale. Him and his Padawan, who I don't know who she is, but she's great.
She's great.
Great. She stole the trailer. I mean, just her entering stole the trailer. Just a lot of good stuff. I did have a little bit of an issue in both episodes. For the most part, the fight scenes were really good. But when they gotten close, man, some of those, it looked slow. It just looked choreographed. And they got to do better than that. It wasn't like ridiculous Obi-Wan. Oh, there's a tree branch in my way. I'm a Saturday morning cartoon. But it's certainly, there were moments like, it's not... It's darker. It does feel like Star Wars. I went back and watched the first 3 episodes of the cartoon, not the Clone Wars, the other
Rebels.
And it was pretty good. It was fine. It was fine. It's, problem with cartoons, the animation is some animation actors are great and it feels like a real character, and some people are like, golly gee, and that was like Ezra to me, and I was like, I can't fucking listen to you, buddy.
I see why you don't get a lot of animation auditions.
That's what like Ezra was next to whatever the rest of the team was, and I was like,
I want to ask you something, Rob, too, specifically because you haven't watched Rebels. There was a lot of Rebel stuff in this, a lot of backstory Rebel stuff. Again, at least in the first episode. Yeah. Were you confused at all with what was going on because of that?
I can't tell when Keith is transitioning, so I was lost the whole time. No, I'm kidding. It's Star Wars, so the fact that Ahsoka in Mandalorian made it clear that she wants to know where Thrawn is. I go, okay, Thrawn, he's another bad guy, blah, 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 Empire. I mean, I didn't feel like there was a lot I had to know. And truthfully, there wasn't even a whole lot I really gave a shit about knowing. Okay, Padawan, I know the relationship between Jedi and Padawan. This with them, they didn't get along, yada, yada, yada. Okay, great. I mean, they either get along with your Padawan or you don't get along with your Padawan. I mean, it's you're button fucking heads. It is what it is. They made that clear pretty quick. I can't say there was anything confusing. It's Star Wars. So it's okay. It's the Galactic. It's the Rebellion. It's pretty cut and dry what's going on. So I didn't feel lost necessarily. I thought it looked tremendous. I think I thought it, again, it didn't look like a Saturday morning Sid and Marty Krofft show. It looked like a Star Wars movie.
Which this is the one that is a Saturday morning cartoon. Like this literally was that.
It's not. It's derived from one. And it looks like a well-produced Star Wars vehicle. And everybody in it's really fucking good. Yeah. And I feel like the characters have purpose and nothing's just thrown in for the sake of being thrown in. I thought the second episode picked up a little bit. It picked up a little. I love that fucking cat thing. I want one.
Loth cat, yeah.
Oh my god, that thing! What is that? They're gonna make more money just on that, selling merchandise of that thing than anything else.
Rebels,
like, ka-ching! Give me that, and you put that in a Baby Yoda. Give me one here, got Baby Yoda here, and then give me a little cat thing here.
His name's Grogu. But if you watch Rebels, it's all Star Wars animals. Like, Rebels is the nature, because that's what Ezra's deal is. Ezra can talk to animals. So, you like him.
I may learn to like, even though he kind of talks like this, Mr. Peabody. That's great.
He goes up throughout the show too, though.
Yeah,
he becomes more adult as well as the show goes on.
The robots were great too. The robot Chopper and the whole. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Chopper, it was ridiculous, but Chopper in the back cheering himself and look, oh god.
When he puts his hands on his hips,
yeah, it was very funny, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, but it was worth it because there was a lot going on. It was chaotic. It wasn't just sitting there posing. It was good. I dug it.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like Star Wars, like in the best of ways. You know what I mean? And
I think,
I think to me, it's interesting because it's sort of, it reminds me of that George Lucas quote that everybody always pulls out. It's like poetry, it rhymes, and that sort of idea of, like, yeah, you're saying Ezra was annoying at the beginning of Rebels. Ahsoka was annoying at the beginning of Clone Wars. And each of those shows are about them growing up. And in Clone Wars, it's about she is the Padawan that refuses to learn, kind of like Sabine is in this one. You know what I mean? And so you're seeing some of those elements. It's interesting because it's, you were talking earlier that the dialogue is organized, I guess was your complaint, as opposed to it being like a Quentin Tarantino Star Wars. I don't need a fucking Jedi, baby, fuck you in the background.
David Mamet everything, but I certainly need. I wouldn't mind. It just sucked all the urgency out of it. There was no the whole show felt like it was coming to a screeching halt because there was nobody who was on a clock. There was nothing seemed to be important enough to drive the scene, and that was driving me up the fucking wall. But it was like that throughout, so it felt like Filoni, who directed one, that's what he was going for whatever reason, and it just pulled it to a screeching halt. Episode 2 didn't have that, different director. So,
well, to me, this was the first time I ever realized there's a scene with Ray Stevenson where he's walking and he's talking to Inosanto, right? And I'm so fucking glad she's got a bigger part in this. That's awesome. The direction, I don't think they reveal it in the first episode, so I won't say what they've made her, but
the scene with what? The one who was from The Mandalorian, that episode where she's a gotcha.
Yeah, Danny Inosanto's daughter. So there's a scene where they're talking, and by Stevenson's performance, I finally realized, oh, this is Macbeth. Like, this is Shakespearean. And there's a level of like royalty in a game of shadows and thrones that are being played. And so to see it in more of a medieval context or an Elizabethan context, even though it's about Star Wars and, spaceships and all that shit, sort of made it feel different for me, like almost Arthurian. And that was an interesting feeling to have for the first time. But, I love seeing where these characters are. I'm a big fan of Rebels. They found creative ways to bring in even the animation from Rebels into that mural. That was fucking super cool.
Right.
I can't wait to see where.
I mean to cut you off. I was going to say Stevenson's character was the only one who didn't fall victim to that unique pacing, because his character was the only character who didn't give a shit. He was so confident that he wasn't rushed by anything. He was literally Frankenstein going from point A to point B. No, he didn't sweat anything. He could take his time. But he wasn't. He was so confident. He wasn't worried. There wasn't a sense of worry about him. He had a job to do. There was no doubt in his mind he was going to accomplish it. He knew how to counter every obstacle that got in his way. So he wasn't one of the characters I felt needed. We got to do this. Oh my God, things are in a hurry. We got to fix things. I didn't find him a victim to the pacing.
I agree with you. I just think you mean Frankenstein's monster and not Frankenstein, because Frankenstein's stressed out about a lot of stuff. Yeah. I also, there's a moment in that, probably some of the finest acting I've ever seen, where he says something and then Santos says sentimental, and he just gives this like look like, oh, you're right. Yeah, it was so good. It was so like just in the moment.
With another word, he says something else.
He says there's so little Jedi left.
Yes.
And she says sentimental. And he says something like apparently, or something like that. But it's just the look on his face.
Yeah, he doesn't argue it. He's very vulnerable. He's connected to both sides.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a fascinating character.
Absolutely.
I think I don't know what happens to his character in this show, and I don't know if they retconned it because of his passing. But it's a shame we won't be able to see more.
Yeah,
and he played the bad guy in an episode of Dexter. In not an episode, in a season. He was the overarching. And this is that character is the closest to this one because how vulnerable and ultimately where the motivations for that character lied. There was a softness and a vulnerability about that crazy bastard too, which it reminded me of. He's just he's fantastic.
He played the fucking Punisher in Warzone, and there's a scene where he gets in a car with a broken nose. He grabs a pencil, sticks the pencil in his nose, and puts his nose back in place, and then does like that for 2 seconds, and then drives. And it's so just good. I love his apprentice in this. I love sassy David Tennant, the robot, is fantastic. Yeah, it's great. I'm digging it. I can't wait to see what comes next of this show. And speaking of coming next, let's talk about some trailers.
Coming soon.
Some awesome fucking trailer music. Let's go ahead and spin our heads around a new horror film that's coming out in 2023. Give me 1 second. My computer shut down for a second. There we go. It's a sequel to the 1973 film about a 12-year-old girl possessed by a mysterious demonic entity, forcing her mother to seek the help of 2 priests to save her. Directed by David Gordon Green, written by Peter Sattler, David Gordon Green, and Scott Teems. This is, of course, The Exorcist Believer, starring Jennifer Nettles, Ellen Burstyn, Ann Dowd, Leslie Odom Jr., Raphael Sbarge, Lydia Jewett, Antoni Cuarón, Olivia Markham, E.J. Bonilla, Chandu Kanuri, Emily Rachel Gordon, Nora Murphy, Linda Boston, Nick Venus, Okui Okpakwasi, Melina Cunningham Anderson, Richard Carr III, and Amanda Beth. Chad, what did you think about the trailer for Exorcist Believer?
Well, I don't know if the movie's going to be good or not, but this is a perfect trailer to me.
Yeah.
To be a sequel to it's a perfect trailer with your prior history of The Exorcist. But I didn't know it was The Exorcist because it was, as Rob said, it was in front of Oppenheimer. So it comes on. I don't know what this is. This is a Blumhouse. I'm like, oh, good deal. That's cool. Then Leslie Odom Jr. Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to check this out. And then much like what you were talking about with the Jaws, the 2 notes, there's the note in the trailer, the music cue, 1 note. And I was like, oh shit, this is The Exorcist. And it was so like awesome. I'm so glad, even though it's the trailer we're talking about, that I did not know this was The Exorcist trailer going into it, but it looks awesome. It's getting, of course, the Halloween treatment that, the recent ones with Jamie Lee Curtis. So I am super excited about this because the trailer's awesome. This is an open night watch for me.
Yeah. Rob, what did you think?
The exact same experience. It was in front of Oppenheimer, IMAX. I was watching this. I was like, oh, what is this? Blumhouse. Oh, cool. Cool thriller. What's going on here? When that note hit, literally all the hairs on my arm, my head stood up. I was like, what? I literally looked at my dad. I was like, the fucking Exorcist. And all of a sudden, then you see Ellen Burstyn, and you're like, oh my God, the makeup. I was scared. I was like, when she comes walking down the church aisle, just mumbling, I almost cover it. I haven't covered my eyes in a long time. It was terrifying. to me, The Exorcist was still the scariest movie I've ever seen. It brought back horrific memories. I was scared shitless the entire time. The makeup was so reminiscent. And it wasn't, again, it was even twice as worse. The last shot is not just one girl possessed, it's the two of them almost intertwined together from that overhead shot. Freaked me, literally, I don't even know what the hell the trailer that came out after that was, because I was like, it's freaking out. The movie might be awful. They should not release another trailer. Just keep showing.
I agree.
But it is that brilliant James Cameron thing of what's scarier than one alien? Two aliens. What's scarier than one exorcist? Two exorcists. The sound is what let me know. Like I have a couple of friends that worked on this because it's shot in Atlanta. But when it started and you hear the Tubular Bell song kick in, that's like, oh shit, okay. And I think this trailer looks awesome. David Gordon Green burned me really bad on that Halloween. And you're doing the same thing where you were racing through the rest of the Exorcist movies. Is it gonna be worth it this time? You know what I mean? I think bringing back Ellen Burstyn is great. That's super exciting.
I love they call her mother. I love it.
Oh, creepy.
I'm gonna watch it definitely, but I'm cautious. I love Exorcist 2 can fuck off, but Exorcist 3 is fantastic. Dominion is great. Exorcist the Beginning is great. It's just an interesting cinematic story. The first one is a classic, clearly. 3 is my favorite though, because Brad Dourif. So I'm excited to see what this is. Yeah, I don't know.
3's your favorite Halloween as well, right? Season of the Witch.
I mean, I do like 3, but 2 is my favorite of that one. But speaking of things that are probably going to suck balls, let's move on to this next one. Directed by Zack Snyder, written by Shea Hatton, Kurt Johnston, and Zack Snyder, starring Cleopatra Coleman. That's really that person's name. That's awesome. Sophia Boutella, Charlie Hunnam, Carrie Ewells, Anthony Hopkins, Jenna Malone, Corey Stoll, Ed Skrein, Michelle Huisman, Dijman Hansu, Stuart Martin, Bae Duna, Alfonso Herrera, Dominic Burgess, Ray Fisher, Ingvar Sigurdsson, Frothy, and Stas Nair.
Really?
Yeah. Written by Shea Hatton, Kurt Johnston, and Zack Snyder. I think I already said that. This is Rebel Moon, when a peaceful colony on the edge of a galaxy finds itself threatened by the armies of a tyrannical ruling force. A mysterious stranger living amongst its villagers becomes the best hope for survival. Some could say he's a new hope. Chad, what do you think about this trailer?
Rebel, New Hope. What? Okay, sorry.
You gotta be careful, Keith. Because when you bash Zack Snyder, that's like half of our audience. They love Zack Snyder.
He's 18 people.
And Trump's getting arrested in Georgia tomorrow. Like, I'm just saying, fuck them all. Like, that Barbie dig at the Snyder universe was great. Go ahead.
I laughed the hardest for that line. It was very funny. That was a great line. But, Zack Snyder's problem has never been his visuals. In fact, that's his strength.
Yeah.
The movie looks incredible. I mean, it looks beautiful. It's 3 minutes long, and it's a good thing they call it a teaser, I guess, because they don't give us any story. Nothing, like, they're not really telling us a whole lot of what's going on. So, I don't know what's going to happen in this movie, but it's going to look good doing it. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. Are they going to do a release at all? Is that going to be theatrical, or is it going straight to?
I think it's straight to streaming, because it's going to be two movies back to back. Yeah, Rob, what did you think about the trailer?
I thought every scene was a beautiful postcard. It looks visual. I don't know what the fuck it's about. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, it's a great shot of like grain and weeds in a field. That's very nice.
Yeah.
There's like a gloved hand. There's somebody in a mask. There's some. I think some things take place in space. I think there might be some. I don't fucking know what the hell it is. Am I going to watch? Yeah, I have a TV set. It's a pretty good TV set. I like sci-fi. I've watched. Listen, whatever it is, I will have watched a lot worse crap than Rebel Moon, whatever Rebel Moon turns out to be. I just finished watching a sci-fi movie called what was it called? It was 30-30, some sci-fi thing where a bunch of recognizable actors are on on a spaceship and the Earth explodes, and I don't fucking know. And I went through that thing. Yeah, you're gonna be like, so yeah, Rebel Moon's gonna be way better than that. So I'm looking. And that was on Netflix. Looking forward to it.
Well, this will be on Netflix as well. I think it's. I wonder if they're going to get sued for the lightsaber thing, because they do have a lady using lightsabers in this. And I get that he pitched this as a Star Wars movie and they said no. And I wonder if there was like a good reason they said no, because his quote today, "This is Star Wars with fucking, cussing, and blood." That's what he says.
Awesome.
Yeah. So maybe that's good. I think, pretty visuals. I think this looks like the cheapest movie he's ever made. And I say that because there were a couple of moments where gave me that we're shooting the big climax of our secret invasion in a hallway feeling, because they're using a lot of the same outdoor things. And I don't know if that's because the movie's not finished editing yet, or they only have certain sections they want to show you, or if the movie primarily takes place on one planet or something. I have no idea. So
hold on. So the movie I watched was called 3022. Came out in 2019 with Omar Epps and Kate Walsh. A group of astronauts living in the haunting emptiness of deep space awake to find Earth has suffered an extinction-level event. So, yeah. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch Rebel Moon. Oh, by the way, I watched that movie. If you guys wanted to talk about it,
from 2017. Is that what you said?
I actually watched it last week. I watched it last week.
You could cut all this out, right, Keith?
No,
I'm just gonna leave it in so they know. Moving on, the next trailer, the last trailer.
Check it out, 3022. I think it's on Amazon Prime. I'm sorry, it's not Netflix.
Directed by Grant Singer, written by Grant Singer, Benjamin Brewer, and Benicio del Toro. This film stars Benicio del Toro, Justin Timberlake, Eric Bogosian, Alicia Silverstone, Dominic Lombardozzi, Francis Fisher, Michael Pitt, Addo Asindo, Carl Glusman, Mike Panufsky, Matilda Anna Ingrid Lutz, Catherine Dyer, Thad Luckenbill, Michael Beasley, J.C. Capone, Sky Ferreira, James Devote, Amy Parrish, and Mel Prolgo. This film is called Reptile. Nichols, a hardened New England detective, unflinching in his pursuit of a case where nothing is as it seems, one that begins to dismantle the illusions in his own life. So Reptile is going to be a Netflix film that will see a theatrical release. Chad, what did you think about the trailer for Reptile?
Before I get into that, I did want to say last night I did watch Journey to Italy. It's 1954.
Good.
It stars Ingrid Bergman and director Roberto Rossellini. I'm just going to read real fast what it was about. An unhappy married couple attempt to find direction and insight while vacationing in Naples. I just watched that the other day. So I want you guys to be aware of that.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, though, that my connection to 3022 did have something to do with space and space movies and sci-fi. And I would watch Rebel Moon.
Well, the people in his movie and the people in this movie, they all breathe. So that's cool. Go ahead.
Well, I do feel like that maybe some people in Reptile are going on. It's a journey. It may be an emotional journey, but they're both going on a journey. I mean, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So this one, I'm going to check this one out for multiple reasons. One, it's going to be on Netflix, and it's during October, so it's just going to fit right in with the horror movie watch. It's maybe not be a horror movie per se, but it's horror adjacent. There's a murder mystery. But I did like seeing Benicio del Toro and Alicia Silverstone being reunited. That was pretty cool. And I just feel like Justin Timberlake's charismatic as hell. So yeah, I'm going to check this one out.
What was the name of the movie they did years ago? Something baggage, something
excess
baggage. Good shit. Keith and I know a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah.
Movie was shot here in Atlanta. A lot of our friends and people we've worked with over the years and interacted with are in this movie. This is the first. So my father moved here 2 years ago from LA. 80 years old, is retired. He moved out there to be an actor. We moved him here a couple of years ago. First thing he booked was this movie. So he shot on this movie. Matter of fact, the audition for this, we were taping in our place, and Keith came over, and Keith and I were working with my dad, and he booked that audition, which is fucking awesome. Now we hope he makes the cut. This movie's been in post-production. He shot that in November 2021.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. We wonder what happened to this. Interestingly enough, the first time I heard about this about a week and a half ago coming out, it's playing a TIFF, a very reputable, the Toronto International Film Festival, which kind of surprised me. I didn't know what kind of film it was, and the trailer certainly had a different tone than I thought. A little more artsy, a little more quirky, a little more bizarre, a little more thriller than I wasn't sure what to expect, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Everybody, yeah, I'm excited for everybody.
Yeah, I think it looks great. The trailer, the music choices in the trailer alone were sort of surprising to me and caught me off guard with the shift of it. But I dug it. I thought it was a super. I'm really excited. Benicio del Toro was incredible. I love Michael Pitt is one of my favorite actors, and then Melvin Prago. That's sign me up for that.
See him in doing some great work in Blood Ties.
Yeah, that's yeah.
An episode of Chips back in '81.
Yeah. Or was the other show he's on, Single Drunk Female?
Oh, that's right. He did 2 episodes of season 2 of Single Drunk Female, which you can catch. Yeah. It was on Hulu. We got to figure out where that is so we can pull his demo reel material.
Cool. Sounds good.
He played an old guy, so look for him.
Yep. Mm-hmm. If you find an old man, he's the one. Also, a quick shout out to a friend of mine who's in Blue Beetle that had a great part in it. I forgot to mention her, Brianna Quinn Lewis. She's at Cord Industries. She's the woman who's the receptionist who's like, oh, I'm sorry, what's your name? Jaime? Okay, Jimmy, go ahead and sit down. That's her. She did a great job in that. Right. Wonderful job there. Yeah, so that's all the movies we've watched.
Sweet.
A little bit of sad news. Today, right before we went on recording, Chad informed us that the great legend Terry Funk has passed away. He had to be at least 500 years old. A legend.
So he was 79. I looked it up. He was 79. Yeah.
Damn, that's
and he lived hard. That fella lived hard.
He put his body through everything.
That's a 79 with a lot of mileage.
Yeah, that's boy, oh boy, that's something. The fact that his body held out that long was something else. But he was unique to say the least. Boy, one of my favorites growing up watching the WWF. I mean, I got to watch him for a long, long time. Him and his crazy brother Dory Funk and Dory Funk Jr. And I saw some AWA stuff back in the day with his father, Dory Funk Sr. So, yeah, he was something else. He was Roadhouse. He had fun character in Roadhouse, and yeah, he worked.
Yeah,
he was.
And I think it's too often we dismiss how much of entertainers these people are. You know what I mean? I think for a lot of people my age and clearly older, because looking at Rob and Chad, wrestlers are a pop culture icon. They're superheroes. You know what I mean? And Terry Funk is a part of that. He's a legend unto himself. So, rest in peace. Our thoughts with the family and all of that stuff.
Those men and women put their, I don't want to say they put their life at risk, but they
do.
Put their arms way every day. They take abuse and pain for the audience's pleasure. So and some people again, it's caused a lot of people to pass away young just because of the damage they've done to their bodies and stuff. And they're doing it for the audience. It's very selfless.
Agreed. Yeah. So our thoughts are out there with him and his family. So Chad, where can the people find you on that uplifting note?
They can find the podcast NQC Podcast on Instagram and Twitter/X now, I guess it's called.
Mm-hmm. Rob, what about you?
I'm on X at Rob Fralgo, I guess. I'm on Facebook. You can catch me on Facebook. You want to say hi? That's it.
I've never seen a person.
I'm the only Rob Fralgo on Facebook.
That was such like a Brechtian moment because you were like saying it and your face was like, I'm not really like, I don't know that I am on this thing. It was really interesting.
I think I'm on Instagram.
Okay. Yeah. And if you want to find me, don't. We'll be back in 7 or 8 months, hopefully working again. And
we'll be back earlier than that, Keith. Me and you for the not quite Darkness series, but Rob, who knows?
Yeah.
I'll be around. I'll be here eating some chicken wings, growing my hair out.
Do you still have chicken wings left?
I have 4 of them, actually.
God, that puppy is just probably like, Jesus Christ, give me the chicken.
This puppy is giving me the stink eye, like, you motherfucker. Yeah. but his puppy's also tripled his size in 4 weeks. He was 9 pounds, then he was 22 pounds. I'm sorry, he was 9 pounds, then he was 18 pounds, then he was 28 pounds. Boom, boom, boom. So he's
Yeah, guys, I watched this 2018 romantic comedy the other day. No, we're done with this. We're done with this bullshit.
on 3022. I also watched War of the Worlds on Peacock.
That's the Orson Welles version, is what he.
No, he listened to the radio version.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, this is Orson Welles. Yeah.
New one. Keith told me that it's in public domain now. So so there are 2 awful War of the Worlds shows on right now. There's an awful movie on Hulu, which I got through 15 minutes of. It's god awful. And then I've been 3 episodes in one on Peacock. Still not very good.
Rob wanted to end this an hour ago, and he's still talking.
4 or 5 things I want to talk about. All right, so buckle up.
All right,
Quite
I'm done
Cool
with
is
this
a
bullshit.
podcast
Bye, guys.
recorded in Atlanta, Georgia, in conjunction with Actors Teaching Actors and Bean Dip Productions. Thanks.